no remote truth. He properly gets worked up, and it's that temperament and response that disqualifies him for being a justice on the Supreme Court. I always wonder what Antonin Scalia would say about all this. Sadly, Antonin is gone, but his son is here. Chris Scalia, the son of the former Supreme Court Justice. Scalia Speaks, co-editor as well. Chris, what do you think of all of this?
Well, I'm not really sure where to start about the hearings overall. As far as the his supposed lack of judicial temperament, I just think that's a joke. He was angry, and he should have been angry. He's defending himself from serious charges, and I think Senate Democrats would have been really bothered if he took it all in stride. Part of judicial temperament means being impartial, as they said, but you know, and objective. But in that situation, when you're defending yourself against accusations of gang rape and sexual assault, how are you supposed to be objective? Are you supposed to say something like, well, my accuser brings up some good points? No, of course not. You attack, and you defend yourself. Senators can be frustrating too, and I think it's impressive for anybody to go through hearings and show much patience. And I can't help but think it's a little bit funny that Hillary Clinton doesn't remember how she reacted during the Benghazi hearings a few years ago when she got very sharp. We all remember what difference does it make? She interrupted a senator then. She raised her voice. She was very annoyed. And I know that she wasn't up for a Supreme Court nomination, but there is that difference. But, you know, we're supposed to think that judicial temperament means not getting angry.
Well, you know what they were saying on this, Chris, and I always wonder, you know, what your wonderful dad would have said about this. Certainly of accusations, a fraction of those were leveled at him, but that he, you know, in this case, Brett Kavanaugh was maybe right to respond the way he did, but now Democrats on that committee are saying, you know, any issues that matter to us, we kind of know where he's coming from, and he's going to be biased and not fair and impartial, as should justices be on the Supreme Court. What do you think?
Well, 2 points about that. First point is the best way to understand his judicial temperament is by looking at his cases. He wrote 307 when he was on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, and he was praised, he has been praised at the beginning of the nominations for his judicial temperament in those cases. One example, Emily's List versus FEC a few years ago. He ruled in favor of Emily's List, which is a pro-choice organization that helps fund Democratic pro-choice women's campaigns. And he ruled in favor of that organization and their ability to raise as much funds as they needed for their campaigns. Obviously, he would know that's a group that is not a fan of his, but he was impartial, he looked at the law, he ruled in their favor. Brett Kavanaugh stopped voting in elections when he became a federal judge. He's an impartial person, and he doesn't want to give that appearance as a judge. Secondly, there are justices on the court, past and present, who have said much more partial things than what Brett Kavanaugh has said. Thurgood Marshall in 1989 said that he wouldn't accept a job as dog catcher for Ronald Reagan. That was after Reagan was president, but it still is a very partisan statement. He said nasty things about President Bush as well. He never recused himself. I don't think he was ever asked to. Judges are able to separate their personal opinions about people, about politicians, from approaching the law.
Real quickly, I know we have to go here, but Chris, one of the things that came up is that this whole FBI inquiry is centered on whether the judge misrepresented how much he drank in high school. I could be wrong, but that seems to be a steady pattern of stuff we're getting out of this. What do you think of that?
I think it shows a level of desperation at this point. I mean, you were talking earlier about whether he threw ice at somebody at a bar, and I know that Democrats are really eager to abolish ice, but this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah. That's not too bad. All right.
Thank you.
Your father's wit lives on. Chris, thank you very much. Chris Scalia.
Thank you.
My best to your family. All right, in the meantime, Jeff Bezos, the world's richest man, sharing the wealth at his company. It just raised the minimum wage, but what applies to one company doesn't necessarily apply to all. After this.